Imagine you reach the end of your life, right? You've amassed all this wealth. Maybe you, I don't know, cured a disease or built this incredible company.
Yeah, you've got millions of followers hanging on your every word.
Exactly. You are, by every modern metric, a profound success. But according to a pretty radical philosophical essay from 2020, if you die with even an ounce of regret, nostalgia, or fear your life was an absolute objective failure,
It is a really jarring concept.
it really is.
Okay,
So, welcome to this deep dive. Today we're looking at a translated text from December 4th, 2020. It's titled, "You Can Only Fulfill Your Mission in Life by Helping Others."
written by Sufeng and translated by Kinyu and edited by Peter.
Right, and this text, it doesn't just suggest we be a little nicer to each other, it makes this bold, absolute claim about the underlying mathematics of human existence.
Our mission for this deep dive is to explore this framework where true personal accomplishment is entirely impossible if you operate from a place of selfishness. We're going to examine how the author takes these ancient, sweeping spiritual concepts and connects them directly to highly specific, incredibly mundane modern-day behaviors.
Yeah, looking at an argument that bridges the cosmic skull of human destiny with, honestly, the everyday reality of how you interact with people on your smartphone.
Which is such a wild leap, but he makes it work.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can even talk about how to help others, we have to look at how this author, Zhu Feng, defines a fulfilled mission in the first place.
Right, you need the baseline.
Yeah, and rather than starting in the clouds with abstract theology, the text starts right in the kitchen and the orchard. It uses these wonderfully practical metaphors.
The focus is entirely on inherent purpose, or, what philosophers might call it, telos. The essay states that when flour is made into steamed buns, its mission has been accomplished.
Just simple as that.
Exactly. When the fruit of the tree is ripe, its mission is accomplished. I mean, the flower isn't agonizing over becoming famous flour,
Ooh.
right? And the fruit isn't hoarding its nutrients to outlast the other fruits on the branch. They simply fulfill their design.
Which feels beautiful and simple until the author shifts from steamed buns to the human deathbed.
Yeah, that escalates quickly.
It does. This is where the text introduces the ultimate equalizer. According to Xu Feng, when a person dies, their worldly status doesn't factor into the final equation at all.
Not even a little bit. Rich, poor, famous, obscure, incredibly wise, or totally uneducated, that is all just noise.
So what's the real metric then?
The real metric is internal state. The text states that if a person dies and still has concerns, remorse, resentment, regret, nostalgia, or fear, it proves their mission in life was not accomplished.
Wow, any of those.
Any of them. True achievement, the author argues, means dying with absolutely none of these negative attachments. If your life is fulfilled, you say farewell to the world with no regrets, or as the text puts it, you are sublimated into an immortal or Buddha.
It makes me think of a role-playing video game. You're playing this huge, expansive RPG.
Oh, yeah.
And you could spend hundreds of hours maxing out your character. You have the highest possible score, you've hoarded all the gold in the realm, your fame stats are off the charts, and you've got the best armor.
You're basically a digital god.
Exactly. But if your character reaches the final cutscene of the game, that final moment, and they're still carrying all this unresolved baggage, still afraid of losing their digital gold, still clinging to the inventory they can't take with them into the credit sequence.
You actually failed the main quest.
Yes, you got distracted by the side quests of wealth and fame, and you entirely missed the point of the game.
And what makes that failed quest so tragic in Xu Feng's eyes is that you spent your whole life optimizing the wrong metrics. You thought you were playing a game of accumulation.
Right, getting more stuff.
But the text insists the rules of the universe are based on distribution. The inventory doesn't transfer over. The only thing that matters is the state of the character's spirit at the end of the journey.
So the text is basically demanding we evaluate our lives, not by what we've built around us, but by what's happening inside us at the very end.
Which is a terrifyingly high bar, if you think about it.
It really is, dying without a single ounce of nostalgia or concern for the people you leave behind. That goes against almost every human instinct we have.
Yeah, completely.
But once we understand that a regret-free, fearless death is the ultimate goal, the text provides the mechanism to achieve it. And this is where it gets highly analytical.
It does. It provides a fascinating, almost mathematical formula for spiritual fulfillment.
Yeah, the author shifts from qualitative metaphors to a quantitative equation.
The text makes a direct correlation. The process of helping others is actually the fulfilling of yourself. It explicitly says, the more you help others, the greater your achievements will be.
And then it makes this massive sweeping claim about the most famous historical religious figure.
Right, the Jesus and Buddha claim.
Yeah. The text argues that the reason Jesus and Sakyamuni the Buddha became God and Buddha is simply because of the immense, massive number of individuals they served.
What's fascinating here is how this contrasts with certain Western ideas of divinity. In many Western traditions, grace or divine status is often framed as something bestowed from above, perhaps through faith or divine chosenness, or a specific covenant.
Sure, like a blessing you receive.
Exactly. But Xufeng frames divinity as an outcome of sheer volume. It's a mathematical certainty. If you serve a cosmic number of people, you achieve a cosmic level of fulfillment.
But to explain how one person can even serve that many people, the text introduces the concept of formless almsgiving.
Right. In traditional terms, almsgiving is giving money or food to the poor. It's material, and therefore it's finite. You only have so much bread to give before you run out.
Makes sense.
But formless almsgiving transcends material goods. It's about giving wisdom, truth, spiritual guidance, or love, things that do not diminish when you share them.
In fact, they kind of multiply.
They do. The text points out that of all services, the beneficiaries of formless almsgiving are the widest and most extensive. Therefore, those who give formless alms achieve the highest level of fulfillment.
I have to push back on this a little bit, though, or at least play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
Because the way it's phrased, that the more people you serve, the greater your achievements, it almost sounds like enlightenment is just a numbers game, like a spiritual economies of scale.
A numbers game, yeah.
Right. If I want to be a Buddha, do I just need to maximize my reach, build a massive email list, and blast out daily affirmations? Is volume suddenly just as important as the purity of my intent?
That tension is exactly what makes the essay compelling. It does sound transactional on the surface, like a spiritual multi-level marketing scheme where your upline determines your salvation.
Yes, exactly.
But if we dig into the mechanism the author is describing, it's not about cynical calculation. The nature of formless giving means it cannot be done with a selfish, calculating mind.
Oh, because of the deathbed test.
Precisely. If you're only giving to get a higher score, you are generating attachment and ego. And going back to the deathbed test, ego and attachment guarantee you will die with fear and regret.
So you can't hack the system by just spamming good deeds.
No, the mathematics of the soul require absolute authenticity. The scale of Jesus or Buddha wasn't achieved through a marketing campaign. It was achieved because their formless giving resonated so purely that it naturally cascaded across humanity.
So the volume is a byproduct of the purity of the selflessness, not the goal itself.
Exactly.
That distinction is crucial, especially as we move to the next part of the essay, because Wei Feng doesn't just leave this as a theory for ancient deities. He applies this brutal math to his own life and his own leadership in a way that is incredibly jarring.
We move from Jesus and Buddha to Xufeng himself and a group called the Chanyuan Celestials.
Right, and to give some quick context for you, the listener, Lev Chanyuan is the community or philosophical group founded by the author, and its members are referred to as Chanyuan Celestials.
Xufeng states that whether he achieves his life's mission depends entirely on what these followers achieve. He ties his entire spiritual fate to them.
He goes to an extreme here. He says, and I'm quoting the translation directly, if Chanyuan Celestials cannot achieve anything, then Xufeng is just a bunch of stinky shit, nothing more.
This raises an important question about the nature of true leadership.
Yeah, it really does.
In so many modern structures, corporate, political, and even within self-help or guru cultures, the leader is the apex of the pyramid. The followers exist to elevate the leader, to validate their wisdom, to build their brand, and to fund their lifestyle.
Right. The followers are essentially stepping stones for the leader's actualization. But I have to ask, is Xufeng's approach actually better?
What do you mean?
Well, if your guru says, my ultimate salvation depends entirely on you succeeding, isn't that just a different kind of manipulation? It places an immense, almost suffocating burden on the followers. If I fail, I don't just ruin my life. I turn my leader into, quote, stinky shit. That's a lot of pressure.
It is an incredibly heavy burden, and it certainly challenges our modern boundaries around personal responsibility. From one angle, it could totally be seen as a deeply enmeshed, high-pressure dynamic.
Yeah.
But from the philosophical framework of the essay, Xufeng is attempting to completely invert the traditional power pyramid. He's operating from a place of radical dependency.
Meaning he can't just be a detached guru.
Right. He's declaring that his achievement doesn't exist in a vacuum. He cannot sit on a mountaintop, dispense wisdom, and claim enlightenment if the people listening to him are still suffering. His enlightenment is inextricably bound to their well-being. It's the ultimate skin in the game.
He's forcing himself to stay in the trenches with them. Which brings us to my favorite transition in the text. We've been talking about cosmic destiny, Jesus, Buddha, and heavy spiritual burdens. And then the author bridges that massive gap between cosmic fulfillment and the most mundane thing we all deal with, our smartphones.
Oh, the WeChat section.
Yes. What really grounds this text for me is how it takes this massive philosophical framework and applies it directly to social media dynamics, specifically WeChat groups.
The author brilliantly grounds the entire philosophy in the digital age. The text introduces a specific case study, a WeChat user with the network name Great Freedom, Transformation of Lotus.
Okay.
The text explains that Lotus selflessly forwarded Life Canyon content in various WeChat groups and wrote articles explaining the community's values and Swifeng's essence.
So she's actively sharing.
Yes, and because she did this, because she helped others by disseminating this formless almsgiving, she received praise from over 100 Chanyun celestials in a very short time.
So the author uses Lotus to prove the mathematical point from earlier. She helped others, and as a result, her own reputation grew. She gave formless alms, and she was fulfilled by the community she nourished.
Exactly.
But then the text contrasts Lotus with a very different type of internet user, the lurkers.
Oh, the lurkers. The text essentially calls them out as stingy and selfish. Swifeng notes that he has been in contact with many people who add him on WeChat solely to promote themselves, or, as he says, to absorb the nourishment of others.
Wow.
They want to consume the wisdom, read the insights, and take whatever value they can extract, but they refuse to participate in the ecosystem of giving.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text gets so granular about human behavior. It points out that these selfish netizens won't forward articles, and they're so stingy they aren't even willing to, quote, pay me by clicking a like.
Just clicking a like.
I know. It is such a recognizable modern behavior. We all know people who consume content endlessly but refuse to leave a comment, share a link, or tap a heart icon because it somehow feels like they're giving away their own power by acknowledging someone else's effort.
It is the digital manifestation of spiritual hoarding. They treat a like as a finite currency instead of a formless alms. And the text offers a grim, profound warning for these people.
What's the warning?
It acknowledges that some of these netizens might have deep wisdom and understand a lot of truths intellectually. But because they refuse to help others, because they hoard that knowledge, the text says they will completely be submerged in the long river of history, and everything they did will have been pointless.
It's like going to a massive community potluck dinner.
Yeah.
You know the type. You show up, and the tables are groaning under the weight of all this incredible food that everyone spent hours cooking.
Oh, I love a good potluck.
Right. And this internet lurker walks in, grabs the biggest plate, and just starts loading it up with everyone else's casseroles and desserts. They are absorbing all the nourishment. But they didn't even bother to bring a bag of chips.
They view the interaction purely as extraction.
Exactly. They sit in the corner eating, thinking they've hacked the system. They think they're getting a great deal maximum caloric intake for zero effort.
Right.
But what they don't realize is that the potluck isn't about the food. It's about the community.
Yeah.
It's about the shared act of providing for one another. By refusing to contribute, by refusing to even click a like on someone else's effort, they're exiling themselves from the actual feast. They are ensuring that when the dinner is over, no one will remember they were even there. They will be submerged in the long river of history.
That analogy captures the exact mechanism of the author's point. Spiritual and intellectual hoarding is a dead end. You can have all the internal wisdom in the world, but if it doesn't manifest in outward action, it rots.
Yeah.
And this contrast between the selfless lotus and the selfish lurkers leads to the text's overarching thesis regarding action versus passive knowledge.
The author states very clearly, no matter how profound the truth you understand is, if you do not put it into your own actions, it will only be a fleeting cloud.
A fleeting cloud.
Yeah, there is a strict insistence on integrity here. The text argues that no one will trust a person whose actions don't align with their words or who just talks without doing anything.
Swifeng makes an incredible argument here that profound truth without action isn't just hypocritical, it is actually weightless. It lacks the gravity to anchor a human life.
And the author provides the ultimate proof of concept for this. He points to the Chanyun celestials themselves as the living embodiment of this philosophy.
Right.
The text claims that for over 10 years, this group has suffered, quote, devastating blows. We don't get the specific details of what those blows are in this particular essay, but it is clear they have faced significant, prolonged communal trauma.
Yet despite a decade of devastation, the text describes them in incredibly vibrant terms. They remain full of confidence, optimistic, romantic. They keep building new homes, and they are daily playing and laughing, moving on together happily.
So, what does this all mean? How does a group of people endure a decade of devastating blows and still end up playing and laughing every day? Is the secret to surviving profound trauma actually just focusing entirely on other people instead of yourself?
Because human nature usually dictates the exact opposite.
Exactly. When we are hit with devastating blows, the instinct is to retreat. We turtle up, we build walls, conserve our resources, and focus entirely on self-preservation.
But the text concludes they survive, and actually thrive, purely because they're selfless.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they don't care about personal gains or losses and only want to dedicate themselves to others. As a result, their own lives are fulfilled.
That interconnectedness is what saves them.
Precisely. According to the text, because they dedicate themselves entirely to fulfilling the cause and helping others, they bypass the fragile, isolated ego entirely. If they were focused on their own individual personal losses, they would have been crushed. Their resilience is a direct structural byproduct of their selflessness.
It's a complete inversion of how modern society teaches us to handle hardship. We are endlessly told to practice self-care, to set up boundaries, to protect our energy at all costs.
Yeah, put your own oxygen mask on first.
Right. But this philosophy argues that hyper-focusing on the self is exactly what destroys you in the end. The self is too fragile to withstand the devastating blows of life alone.
It creates a fascinating paradox. The only way to save yourself is to completely forget about yourself. It's a radical proposition, especially in an era defined by personal branding and individual optimization.
Which brings us to the core tension we've been unpacking in this deep dive. If we zoom out and look at the whole picture Su Feng is painting, the message is stark and unavoidable.
Very stark.
If you want to fulfill your mission in life, if you want to be like the flower that successfully becomes the steamed bun and not end up on your deathbed with a heart full of fear and regret, you must go all out to help others. The text concludes by saying that if you don't do this, you and everything you do will come to nothing. It will all just be a dream in a bubble.
The reader is left with a very strict binary choice.
Yeah.
We're always standing at a crossroads. We can choose the selfless legacy of someone like Lotus, who shares, amplifies, and gives formless alms to her community. Or we can fade into the river of history, like the selfish WeChat lurkers who refuse to give back. The text promises that those people will inevitably fade away, entirely forgotten, because they never truly joined the stream of humanity.
It forces you to reconsider the micro-interactions you have every single day. Which brings me to a final thought for you, our listener, to mull over as you go about your day.
Let's hear it.
Think about your own digital and real-world habits. The next time you're hesitating to share your knowledge or holding back from helping a colleague or even just feeling too lazy or cynical to simply click a like on someone else's creative effort, ask yourself a tough question.
Yeah.
Are you really just protecting your energy and being efficient? Or are you, in that tiny, seemingly insignificant moment, actively preventing your own ultimate fulfillment?
A question worth carrying with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back next time to unpack more fascinating sources. Until then, keep questioning and maybe, I don't know, go bring a bag of chips to the potluck. Take care, everyone.
Goodbye.